up, guys? It's Kanesha Morrison here with another episode of Testify Tuesday. We're getting back into the flow and the nitty-gritty of all the things that life is throwing at me, the life hacks, experiences, and all the good. Today, we're going to talk about how life doesn't always have to be hard. I've kind of hinted around on a few other episodes on a particular lesson that completely changed my life, and I figured, why not just go ahead and dive right into it, right? Go ahead and quit hinting about it and just get into it and give it to all of you. If you are watching live on the Facebook Live page, welcome. Thanks for being here. I'm really excited to dive in and teach you what was taught to me. And if you are catching this on the audio of the podcast, feel free to come on over on Tuesdays, www.facebook.com/lashes, y'all. And you can watch the live recordings of this particular podcast, interact with me, and get to grow with me. Today we are talking about how we don't have to always choose the hard. So if you listen to the podcast about me sharing my story, you know that I was one of those underdogs that was just determined to win and determined to keep showing up. And we lived in Roaches, and I had 3 kids by the time I was 22, and all the things that could have counted me out, college dropout, all the things. So you just have to know that life was really difficult. Life was hard, and because of my mindset, I always chose the hard. So at this particular time in my life, my business was just beginning to take off the way I wanted to. I was 23. I had a 5-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 6-month-old. My 5-year-old was in kindergarten. We had literally just moved from the Roach house to the Lake house, and we were living, right? We were living at the top of our peak, or so what I thought. It couldn't get any better than what I was experiencing. Thank you so much, Samantha, for watching live and sending some stars. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And for those of you watching live, feel free to hit the share button, because I promise you there's a good lesson in this. He had just finished up kindergarten. We're at the Lake house, and we were enjoying life. Life could not have been any better. But up until that point in my life, everything had been hard. I had to fight for groceries. I had to fight for insurance. I had to fight to get my baby to be delivered quickly, and that's a completely different subject. I had to fight in my own home to be able to get my opinion heard. I had to fight with kids because they didn't want to appreciate me. I had to fight as a young girl because, as you guys know, I'm a product of an affair. So I'm fighting with my biological family versus the family that loved me. I'm fighting for my sanity. I'm fighting to be a young black girl in the middle of Atlanta at the time, that although all the black people was thriving, you talk too white, or you think that you're white, or you hang around more of the white people. And sadly, that is a stem of racism that I don't think black people are quite ready to talk about. We talk about each other. You're too light for this, too dark for this, hair too short for that, hair too long for this. You got good hair, you got bad hair. I do think that the dialogue is beginning to change, but at the time, with me being a young girl, I knew, being a darker girl, sadly, I had to try harder and be better than everyone else that was around me. It made me great, right? It developed me into the woman that I am, so I'm definitely not complaining. I just wanted you to understand the backstory of why I always have that fight, and like that underdog must win. So at this particular time, my son was getting ready to fail kindergarten. They realized that it was something going on with him. We now know he has ADD, but at that time, he was obviously undiagnosed. He was the sweetest boy. His teacher had all the great things to say about him. He was polite. He was attentive. He paid attention, but he was not retaining. So we got to the end of our kindergarten year, 6 weeks before school was getting ready to get out. And at this time, I'm 22, right? This is my first kid I'm putting through kindergarten. I have no idea what I'm doing. I realized that my son could not read. And in order for him to go to first grade, he obviously needed to know how to read. She, as in the teacher, recommended that we put him in a program that was called Pre-First, which was a bridge program between kindergarten and first grade to be able to get him to be caught up to be able to go to first grade the next year. So in essence, she was holding him back. We realized he didn't know the sight words. We realized that he didn't know how to read. He had memorized the sight word sheet in order, but when we began to scramble them up, and being a young mother, I didn't know to scramble them up. So of course he had to memorize the sheet in order. He did not know what he needed to know to go to first grade. So I decided that instead of re-enrolling him at the school that he was at, she recommended the Pre-First program, which was at a particular private school. When I looked at that school prior to moving to the area, because you know when you get ready to move to an area, if you're a parent, you want to know about the school district and how many kids live in the neighborhood and all those things. Yeah, no, Kanesha didn't have the smarts for that. I literally put a post on Facebook, what do you guys know about this particular school? I said, our county school, and that was it. I didn't tour the neighborhood to see if it was other kids and all the things. So when we got there, we realized it was a retirement community. All the people that lived there had raised all their children together, and all of their children had them went off to college and doing their things. Most of them were grandparents, so every once and again the grandchildren would come in, and it was just a complete buzz, right? It was no one to play with, and that is something that we later learned to look at. I want you to know that your life experiences are meant to teach you, develop you, and grow you, to take you to a new level that you don't even know is possible. I had no idea living in the lake house was going to be possible for me. So that was all I was looking at. I looked at the surface. I didn't dig deep enough to understand the school district that was in that area or the lack of children that lived in that particular area. Obviously, when I bought this house, I had more knowledge. Give yourself time to develop into the person that you need to be, because your experiences today are developing you for tomorrow. So I take him to the private school, and at this point, we're thinking Pre-First. His teacher said Pre-First. I got my head wrapped around Pre-First. At that time, tuition was like $9,800, so that's perfect. I can afford that. This is good. This is where he's going. We get there. They take him back for testing. Testing was all of maybe 30 minutes. He didn't even know it was testing. They said something about, we just want to see what you know so we can pick what fun teacher we're going to give you next year. So, of course, he's 5 and he's all excited. He gets in there, he takes the test, they come back, and he tells me that he cannot go to Pre-First because he did not know how to spell his last name, and that was a requirement to go to the Pre-First program. I was devastated because now I'm realizing he's even further behind than I thought he was. But here's the crazy thing. My 5-year-old had no idea he was behind. So for him, he was just ecstatic that he's getting a fun teacher and that all the things were working out in his favor. It's all about perspective. I was looking at the negative while my son was embracing the positive because he didn't know any different. Stop letting other people's perspective change your perspective of you and where you're growing and where you're going to be. That was the biggest aha moment that I could have when I watched my son not know any different. And of course, I'm not a dream killer, so I'm not telling him, boy, do you realize this means you finna have to do kindergarten again? Like, get with it. I could have been that mother, but I wasn't. Because I realized in that moment that his perspective was for me to support him during that time. Many people want to have opinions about lots of things that go on in our life, but it's not really their place to be able to do that. It's their place to be a support to you. And if they can't support you, you need to get more around people that are more like-minded like you. So when they came back and told me that he could not go to Pre-First, I was devastated. And I was resistant. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to enroll him back at the other school. It'll be fine, blah, 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 blah. I had a whole attitude about it. So I go back to the public school. I called them before I went to re-enroll him because I'm going to save my $9,800, forget what this school's saying. They don't know, whatever. So I go back to the school. I ask if they're there. I'm trying to re-enroll him. I get there, and y'all tell me why the lady closed the door in my face talking about they was finna go to lunch. Had a whole attitude after I just called, and she could have told me that they was headed to lunch. Pay attention to the red flags. See, a lot of times what we perceive as the hard way is really red flags telling us, take a stop, take a breath, reevaluate this, redo the path. There's a difference between having adversity and just continue to run your head in the wall. So when I realized that she could have told me on the phone that they were going to lunch, I could have perceived that attitude as, this is me choosing the hard. Now I have to wait. When in essence, it was my spirit guide's way of putting me back on the path that they were trying to give me. There's always going to be 2 paths, and each path is going to lead you to exactly where you're supposed to be, which is your purpose. But there's a lighter path, and there is a adversity path. Many of us choose adversity because that's all that we know. But it was a red flag to tell me, this is not right. We have to learn to listen to our gut and to listen to all the things that the universe is trying to show us, or that God is trying to show us. Your intuition is the number one thing that will bring you the health, wealth, joy, and peace that you are looking for. So being 22, I understood this because I was doing personal development every day. And I knew a part of my personal development was loving me and understanding that stress does not mean that I love me. Okay, when you choose stress and when you choose worry and you choose to keep walking down that path, if you're getting anything out of this, feel free to shoot me some stars or hit the share button if you are watching this live. And if you're not, please feel free to drop the show notes in the podcast if you are gaining anything from this. I want you to know that you don't always have to choose the hard. So I'll go back to the private school, because now the public school done pissed me off, right? So now I got a whole attitude again. So I go back. Those people were still welcoming. They were still warm. They still had his spot. I literally filled out the application. I paid the application. Sorry, they taught me how I could continue to grow and do all the things that I need to do. I was in and out in 10 minutes. And I remember going to the car and I called my girlfriend, Katrina, and I told her, that felt way too easy. That was way too easy for some reason. Why did it feel like I just made a mistake? And the words that she said to me is, Kanesha, everything in life doesn't have to be hard. Everything in life doesn't have to be hard. If you don't take anything else from me out of this particular podcast, I want you to understand that picking the hard is a choice, and it is a mindset that we are conditioned to believe. 10 minutes in and out. And can I tell you, that was one of the greatest experiences I could have ever given my son. He's been there since kindergarten, taught the second time from kindergarten, and he's going into 6th grade in August. Right now he's in 5th. He's been there 6 years. It took my second son through the same thing. When we lost our daughter, they loved us through it. That school loved the heck out of us. They loved on us so much. They did the therapy that we needed, counseling that we needed. We've had the same teachers now for 2 or 3 different years. One of my sons shared a teacher. 2 of my sons shared a teacher. And I've had 3 go through there. And I tell you, it's been the biggest blessing simply because I listened to the red flag and I chose the lesser resistant route. Adversity doesn't make you stronger or weaker, right? Choosing the lighter path doesn't make you a weak person. And that is what I had to understand. Wealthy people and joyous people, people that have peace, people that have joy, people that are full of good health and good wealth, they don't look for the hard. They look for the solution. They look for what is the quickest way that is going to bring me the same resolution. It's not about being right. It's not about picking fights. It's not about who fought harder. It's not about who gained more, because at the end of the day, they know unity is the ultimate goal. It's not about management. It's about finishing what you start. So know that there is no right or wrong path. You're all going to equal right where you're supposed to be in your purpose. But please understand that there is a way that you can go lighter, greater, further if you just listen to your intuition and allow it to take you where you need to go. I said I was going to do a quick affirmation card at the end of this, and I've never done this particular thing on live, but this is the Super Attractor deck, and I will also put it in the show notes for you to be able to get it as well. And our card of the day is going to be, when I'm patient, I let the universe do for me what I cannot do for myself. When I am patient, I let the universe do for me what I cannot do for myself, which literally lines up with exactly what we just talked about. When I listen to my intuition and allow God, the universe, spirit, ancestors to guide me, I know my path will always be lit, and I know I will end up right where I am supposed to. If you got anything out of this, feel free to hit the share button, drop me some notes, or shoot me some stars. I love you guys. I'm Kanesha. Thank you for listening to my wisdom, and I will catch you on the next episode.